So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Michael, for pointing out that it's now afternoon. And Thomas, how are you? Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our continuing Zoomcast series for 2025. Excited to be here today. We did this session on Tuesday. We had, I think it was about 85 participants and got some great conversations going and some great feedback and so on. So on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust, we're happy that you're joining us today. With us from the Benefits Trust, Carrie Lane. Carrie Lane loves to have these sessions at noon because she gets up at 11:30. Joking, 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 of course. Also here today is Mike Ignatz. He's in the house. There he is. And Rob Crowder is going to be running the show behind the scenes. And so again, on behalf of all of us that are here today, we want to take this opportunity to thank you. At the end of the session today, you're going to receive a CE credit for participating. Mike's going to fire those out to you right away. As well as that, you're going to be signed up if you're not already for our Trusted Advisor newsletter. I think we're very close to 150 consecutive months, but there's always just, it's a real page turner. You know, we're talking about benefits and it's just valuable information, one sentence after the next. So you got to read that from, start to finish. As well as that, you're going to get a really short survey. And the survey is going to tell us how we did today and how we can do it better tomorrow. As well as that, there's an opportunity for feedback about topics that you'd like to see covered. And actually, this topic that we're going to discuss today about risk mitigation is based on feedback that we receive from you, risk mitigation with respect to plan design. So that's what we're here to certainly talk about today, because that's feedback that we've got from you. As well as that, I'd also like to get you guys, especially for participating today, I'd like to get your feedback on what you think of the 12 o'clock noon start. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is this, how do you feel about that? Please let us know. And if the feedback is positive, we will continue to do more. Colin's giving us, 2 thumbs up 3 times. So that's like, 6 thumbs up from Colin. There we go. So anyways, we want to, let's get started. So let me just share my screen here. Oh, Wendy's giving us some thumbs up all over the place as well. Sharing is not turned on. Rob, could you do that for me, please? There we go. Sharing is turned on. And, share. And let me just slip back to the beginning. Why is this not allowing me to do this? Okay. There we go. Sorry, I was just reviewing. See, can everybody read that real quick? Sorry, my bad, my mistake. Risk mitigation with plan design. Everybody can see that, I hope, which is great. Risk mitigation with plan design. That's what we want to talk about today. And again, this is feedback that we've received from you. So if you've got a question throughout the presentation today, throw your little hand emoji up because it'll pop up on my screen and I'll certainly acknowledge you and get to you and we can start that discussion. As well as that, if you've got a question or a thought or an idea or you disagree or you think I'm crazy, throw it in the chat box because everybody can see it. And as well as that, if everybody can see it, everybody can see the response because Carrie is going to give you a response or Mike is going to give you a response or certainly Rob's going to give you a response, but everybody can see it because the whole purpose of these Zoomcasts is really, it's not as much of a commercial for us, which it is, but it's more about sharing of information. The whole idea of these Zoomcasts was about being in a room where everybody gets smarter. Fortunately, I've been in this insurance business for many, many years now, and I'm just amazed on how much information is shared. I was just at KALU last week in Ottawa, and the amount of information shared between advisors is extraordinary. And I don't think this is similar to any other industry in the world, right? And we've got such a huge marketplace out there. Sharing of information is good. If we could all do just a little bit better than we did before we came into the session today, I think, and we can help clients out or help prospects out. I think today was a great use of time. So again, that's sort of where we're coming from on these sessions. It's about sharing information and it's about being in a room where everybody gets smarter. So let's get started. Mitigating risk with plan design. No, it's not letting me go forward. What is going on here? Put the cursor in the right spot. There we go. So we want to talk about what risk mitigation is. What is risk mitigation in a benefits plan? We want to talk about risk mitigation from a life insurance perspective, an AD&D perspective, a long-term disability, critical illness, and of course, health and dental. We want to talk about plan designs and how we can use risk mitigation to get your thinking around plan designs and more importantly, your clients' thinking around plan designs. We want to sprinkle in the middle of this a couple of case studies, and of course, we're going to have some time for some questions, answers, and discussions. We're also going to stick around for a few minutes after the hour is up, and if you want to continue these discussions, we'd be happy to do so. If you got to leave right at 1 o'clock, fantastic. Thank you again for your time, and Mike's going to send those CE credits out. PDQ, and PDQ means pretty damn quick, and we use a lot of TLAs in this business, which are three-letter acronyms, but I'll try not to as much as possible. A little bit about the Benefits Trust and sort of where we're coming from. We started the Benefits Trust on January 1st, 1994, so that's quite a few years ago, over 30 years ago. We are a full-service third-party benefit administration company. We're the largest independently owned TPA in Canada. And in 2024, just last year, our friends at Benefit and Pension Monitor magazine named us a top benefit provider, and they also named us a top employer in the benefits business. So we practice what we preach as well. We provide custom employee benefit solutions to your clients. We work with advisors like you, professional advisors that we have relationships with, and we provide those custom employee benefit solutions to your clients. We provide an exceptional client experience. That's what the feedback we get from our clients continuously, and a lot of advisors that we worked with for many, many years. We provide that exceptional client experience. One of the things that we do is that 5% really well, extremely well, as a matter of fact. Everybody does the 95% well. Those are table stakes. Just like when you're working, with Bell Canada or Rogers or Air Canada or the 407 or any of these big companies, and you've got an issue, who do you call? How do you get this issue resolved? And you can spend hours and hours and hours on the phone. That's where we really shine. It's that 5%. You got a problem, you give us a call, boom, we're going to take care of it. Your client has a problem, one of their family members or one of their employees has a problem. Great, we can take care of those things right away. We've got long-term relationships with all the major insurance carriers and service suppliers in the industry, so we're not tied to any one. And our target market, again, is working with advisors like yourself with 1 to 100 employees. So again, thank you for joining us. What is risk mitigation? Let's jump right into this. What is risk mitigation? Well, risk mitigation, according to artificial intelligence, says, risk mitigation refers to the strategies and actions taken to reduce the likelihood, severity, or impact of potential problems. So just putting that in English, so we all understand it, because we do understand what that means. But, leaving early for the airport reduces the risk of missing your flight. Leaving early for the airport, it reduces the risk of missing your flight. If you miss your flight because you're late, you can blame the traffic all you want. You can blame road construction. You can blame that your Uber was late. You can blame anything you want, but it's your fault. Let's call it what it is. It's your fault. Yeah, unexpected things happen. It goes in the shit happens file, right? Things happen. But if you leave early enough because you're not sure on what's going to happen, right, you're never going to miss a flight. Knock on wood. I've never missed a flight, but I'm one of those get to the airport early kind of guys. I just like doing that because I don't want to be stressed about it and so on. The other idea is, wearing a helmet doesn't eliminate, but wearing a helmet reduces the risk of a brain injury if you fall off a bike. Simple. I grew up, I'm 60 years old now. I'll be 61 in September, but I grew up never wearing helmets for anything I did. And look at the brain injury I've got, for God's sakes. But, now I won't get on a bike without a helmet. I won't ski without a helmet. I won't do a lot of things without a helmet, right? And not skiing reduces the risk of breaking your leg. I put that one in there because, as many of you may know, Michelle and I, my wife and I, we ski at Whistler all winter long, and she broke her leg this year, right? After 50 days of skiing. So she skied 50 different times, and we've skied together for, all our lives. And this is the first, knock on wood, injury that she's had. So, but if she didn't ski, she wouldn't, she still could have broken her leg, but it would have reduced the risk significantly. So that's risk mitigation. And you and I, we think about risk mitigation subconsciously in a lot of things that we do. Just a simple drive down the road, you go, hey, I'm going to turn left here because it's easier to turn left here than it is at the next intersection. So I'm going to turn left here and then wind my way through. Whatever it is, but we do practice risk mitigation in all aspects of our life. So with respect to employee benefit programs, What is risk mitigation in a benefit plan? Well, there's, NEM risk mitigation, like non-evidence maximum risk mitigation. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. Fraud mitigation, right? Using plan design to defer or limit as much as possible fraudulent claims, make it more difficult. Financial risk mitigation, capping coverages, using healthcare spending accounts, so the client doesn't have as much financial risk associated with their plan. So there's financial risk mitigation. There's compliance risk mitigation. We all know from attending the, CGIB sessions that Dave Patriarch puts on that, there's a lot of compliance, but if you mess up on something, you could really throw the taxability of certain components of a benefit plan offside. So there's compliance risk mitigation. So we got to look at all these things when we're talking about plan design and when we're talking about benefit plan risk mitigation. It's really about NEMs, it's about fraud, it's about financial risk, and of course, compliance risk mitigation is critical as well. So we're going to look at life and AD&D. We're going to lump those together a bit because they're very similar in many ways, and we've only got an hour together. We're going to talk about long-term disability, the most misunderstood benefit in the suite of benefits that we want to talk about. Critical illness, we certainly want to talk about extended healthcare and dental care. Now, we can spend a half a day on each one of these subjects or a day on each one of these particular subjects. So we're going to go through these fairly quickly. But again, one thing I want to point out is there's no right or wrong answer. If you're hoping to get what is the best plan design today, the answer is you're not going to get that. I just want you to think a little bit differently and help your clients think a little bit differently. But what is the life insurance? Hey, hold on a second. I'm holding up the mirror. He's not breathing. He's dead. What's the risk? Well, there's a lot of risk. And when we're talking about life and accidental death and dismemberment insurance, what is the risk to the plan sponsor? Well, the risk to the plan sponsor is, hey, what if a plan sponsor fails to enroll an employee or update details? Like not enrolling an employee is pretty significant because they get a bill every single month. They review that bill and pay that bill. And if Johnny Smith isn't on that bill, and they let it run for six months or 8 months or 10 months or 2 years or whatever it is, and all of a sudden this guy dies, the insurance company, especially if it's a smaller case, the insurance company may not pay out, right? It may not pay out. Not enrolling the employee on time could be considered a late entrance, but they could maybe not even pay out the risk or not even pay out the claim. But if it's a late entrant, then the individual has to have satisfactory evidence of insurability prior to joining the plan. So this could cause some conflicts as well. So the employer has to take responsibility for this. The other thing is, the non-evidence maximum. Employees must assume that they're covered or may assume that they're covered for the entire policy amount when in fact only a portion is covered without medical evidence. And not updating earnings, the insurer may, this may result in an incorrect benefit amount being paid at the time of claim. Hey, you know what? You didn't tell us that this person had a $25,000 increase in their salary or $50,000 increase in their salary. Sometimes it's not significant, but other times it can be significant. So these are risks according to the plan sponsor. Risk mitigation, according to or from an employee's perspective, is important as well. Because, it's amazing when you think about it, not electing a beneficiary because they might say, hey, I don't really have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I'm not married. I don't have a life partner. Geez, I'm kind of on the outs with my parents right now. And, I don't want to leave the money to my dog. So I'm just going to put my estate down, or I'm going to leave it blank for the time being. And, that can cause a great deal of taxation, right? Or more importantly, not changing your beneficiary when your life change happens to lead you down a different road, right? So all of a sudden, I remember standing up for a friend of mine. It was his second time around getting married. And, there's that nervous 15-minute chit chat before the ceremony. And his name is Rob as well. And I was chatting, and him and his new wife were going to go on a trip, and they were going to go to Australia for 3 weeks on a honeymoon. And we were chatting just before the ceremony. I go, hey, Rob, I'm assuming you changed your beneficiary for your pension plan and your benefit plan. And he goes, oh my God, it's still Trish. What happens if something happens when we're away? Well, you know what? you're in trouble, bud. You got to change these things. The employees have to have certain responsibilities, and they have to know what these responsibilities are. And we have paid out claims at the Benefits Trust. We have paid out life insurance claims to ex-spouses. Ex-spouse loves it. Old spouse or new spouse, not so much. So it's important that the employees are aware of some of these risk mitigation strategies as well. And advisors, as professional advisors, we need to be aware of things. We need to educate our clients about what their responsibilities are. Right? We need to educate our clients about, how important it is to add employees on time, on updating salaries on a continual basis, providing NEM forms, not evidence maximum forms when necessary, right? Or evidence of insurability forms. But what if the non-evidence maximum is only $25? Hey, I'm getting 2 times earnings up to a maximum of $100,000, but I just make a little bit over that. So whose responsibility is it? And that's a great question. And we had, a little bit of a debate about this on the session that we did on Monday, but whose responsibility is it? Is it the advisor's responsibility to make sure that these get sent out? Is it the client's responsibility because they're administering the plan? Or is it the employee's responsibility? But again, what's material? Is $25 material? Who knows? And who's to decide? But I'll tell you, one of the things, the biggest risk that you have is, and I'm saying this, with a grain of salt, not educating the client about their responsibilities is sort of a theme through this entire presentation. But it is important because, are you going to get sued over this? Chances are not, right? I don't think there's been any cases in Canada like this, but what you're going to do is you're going to lose the faith of your client, and they're going to not look at you as their trusted advisor. And they're going to say, hey, great, we want a new trusted advisor, and you're going to lose a client. Wendy, you had a question.
Can I just make a comment about the naming of beneficiaries on life insurance?
Please.
Because I had a situation with a young man, 42, and you know that some insurance companies will do online enrollments, and some don't. And the problem with online enrollments, of course, is that you don't often get to see what they've done until after the fact. So I had an online enrollment with this young man of 42. His CI was fine because that was a paper enrollment. So I got to push him to put the beneficiary in, and it was his mother.
On CI?
Sorry?
On CI?
On CI.
Okay.
Anyway, he died at 42.
Okay.
And so the beneficiary became his mother. It was a sudden and massive heart attack. And and it's Allstate, so they're a good company to deal with for that.
Life insurance, though.
Life insurance, however, online enrollment, the plan had only existed for just over 3 months at this point in time. And he did not list his mother. So going through the process of doing the actual looking at the enrollments, it got missed, and he hadn't listed his mother as the beneficiary.
So it was paid to the estate and therefore taxable.
Yeah. And it took a long time to go through.
Paid for the estate and therefore taxable. And that's just, that's unfortunate, but it's important. So when we're talking about, thanks, Wendy, for sharing. When we're talking about life insurance as well, what about a flat life benefit? It mitigates risk because, the only risk that you're adding, the only risk is not making sure that you're taking away the evidence of insurability, but you just got to make sure that they're enrolled in the plan. But the benefit does not increase with salary. But as well as that, if you give somebody a salary increase, their benefit may go unnoticed. This way, you're separating the salary increase from the benefit increase, and the only responsibility that the client has is making sure, or the administrator has, making sure that they're enrolled on the plan. So you're mitigating risk potentially with a flat benefit. Life insurance based on earnings, again, it becomes a little bit more complicated depending on what the earnings are, because our commissions taken into account, our dividends taken into account, our bonuses taken into consideration. All of these things, have to be defined, and they have to be included or not included, and they have to be communicated to the client, and they have to be communicated to the member, because the member goes, hey, last year I earned, because I just got my notice of assessment. Last year I earned $125,000 a year. Great. Well, some of that was dividends, some of that was bonuses, and some of that was, salary. So, but I'm thinking I'm getting $125,000 of life insurance if I've got a one-time salary. But maybe it's not quite that. Maybe it's only $60,000 because it's just based on base earnings. So it's important that, we and everybody is aware through education on what is taken into consideration. Becomes an issue potentially when life insurance with a non-evidence maximum and has a different maximum. So which is quite common in smaller cases. An insurance company says, great, the NEM's 150,000, for example, on the life insurance, but the maximum benefit is 300,000. The client just hears 300,000 potentially because it's, blown over pretty quick. And then all of a sudden they fail to communicate this to the employees. And, it might leave the employer liable, and it might leave the advisor liable. Well, again, has anybody been sued over this? Not that I'm aware of. I don't want to put the fear of God in people, but you know what? Again, you're going to have an upset client because you never told me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they're going to find a new advisor. So understanding excess coverage and not evidence maximums is critical, again, and sharing that information is also critical. Life insurance with NEM and the same overall maximum, hey, I've got $150,000 max and $150,000 NEM, fabulous. It doesn't allow the employee to apply for additional coverage. However, it alleviates the risk of these different NEMs and plan maximums and the $25, extra in insurability and so on. Case study, just real simple case study. Somebody's got a life insurance and AD&D maximum of 2 times salary. Their NEM on their life insurance is $150,000. Their overall maximum is $300,000. Pretty standard benefit. Pretty easy. But the employee is a senior person, makes $250,000 a year, and was never given the evidence of insurability forms. All he remembers, maybe, is he gets 2 times salary. He makes $250,000 a year. He might tell his family that he's got, $200 or $500,000 of life insurance and $500,000 of AD&D, but we don't know. We don't know. But all of a sudden he gets hit by a bus and dies. Now, I always use this expression, gets hit by a bus and dies, but I'll tell you, we had a client that got hit by a bus in England, stepped off the curb and looked the wrong way because the buses were on the other side of the road and got killed in England. It's kind of sad, very sad, very sudden. But anyways, the spouse files a death claim and is expecting a life benefit of $300,000, an AD&D of $300,000, or maybe she was even expecting a life claim of $500,000 and an AD&D benefit of $500,000. But again, the NEM was that, the maximum benefit was $300,000. So we're going to go with that. So she was expecting, in this case, to be paid out $600,000. Well, no, there's never any evidence of insurability. It was never discussed, never given to the employee. There's no record of it, etc. So the insurance company is only paying out $300,000. Then the spouse sues the company and the advisor for the balance of the $300,000. Great. Again, made up case, but who's liable? That gap might have been $300,000. That gap might have been $700,000. You never know, right? That's why education is critical, and it's education to the employer, it's education to the employees, so everybody is taking responsibility for their own being, and it's off your shoulders as a professional advisors. So life and AD&D and plan design, all types of insurance have risks. There's nothing. All type of life insurance and AD&D have risks. For the sponsors, for the plan sponsors, for the employees, and for the advisors. It's our job as advisors to educate our client with these risks and build a plan that aligns with their risk profile. There's not one answer that's correct. Again, through this entire presentation, there isn't one, you need to have one that looks like this. Nope. There isn't one answer that's correct. The only correct answer is one that suits the client, and there's 400,000 businesses in Canada with less, or in Ontario with less than 100 employees, and all of them have a different answer. It's our job as professional advisors to find out what their best answer is. Long-term disability. Oh my gosh, this is the most misunderstood benefit in the suite of benefits that are offered. But similar risks to to life insurance, like adding employees on time, reporting the correct salaries, reporting earnings changes immediately, not evidence maximums communication. The reason why that's important is for obvious reasons, but premiums are also significantly greater in long-term disability than they are in initial life insurance benefits. That's obvious, right? And this is primarily premiums are going up, and they're going up at a fairly significant rate, primarily due to health claims and low interest rate environment that we're still involved in. And so costs are significant for long-term disability. So some of the risks associated with plan sponsors is, of course, that the plan sponsor needs to give employees forms when they go on disability, and the risk of the claim not being processed in time or on time. You know, we all know that they get paid at the end of the fourth month, but all of a sudden they forget to give the forms to the member. And as we all know, the process can be long, right? The process of claiming long-term disability can be long, and often you have to get specialists, medical specialists being involved in these processes, and that takes time to get all this information back. So the longer that the employer delays this process by not giving out forms on time, it's going to take that much longer for the employee to get money when they need it the most, right? So that's certainly a risk to the plan sponsor. The plan sponsor needs to have internal procedures in place that stipulate how long a disabled employee could stay on the benefit plan. You know, they could be on it forever. They're disabled, they're not contributing to the company in any way, shape, or form, but they're still on the benefit plan, claiming drugs and going to the dentist, right? And being covered for life insurance, or are they, right? But what is the company corporate philosophy? What's their policy? Is their policy written? Is that policy shared with the employees? Again, something as an advisor you can help with. Accounting and payroll, we got to make sure that this is done well. Yeah, our benefit is non-taxable because the employees pay. Well, taking one premium from one member for 1 month because you want to help them out, right, can throw the whole benefit, offside, and the whole benefit can become taxable for everybody. Again, I have not really seen that, but it's just important that the checks and balances are in place. The risk to the employee. The big thing is employees don't realize how much coverage they actually have. They know they pay a big premium, but they don't know how much coverage they have because there's confusion around the non-evidence maximum, the definition of earnings, the definition of disability, the taxation associated with it. Again, this is where education comes in. It's important. The risk to the advisor is not educating the employee about or the client about their responsibilities, not, adding employees on time and updating salaries and explaining NEMs and the importance of completing the evidence of insurability forms. Inadequate assessment of client needs, that's a big thing. Not reviewing the plan regularly. There was a recent change in EI because of COVID. Does you want your benefit, your long-term disability plan to start after the EI or the original EI or the increased EI? But all of these types of things, when they come to light in the employer's eyes or through the employee to the employer's eyes, if nobody on this call, but if an advisor hasn't done their job, they're going to be dissatisfied with their advisor, and they're going to lose trust, and they're going to find a new advisor that can really help them out. So these types of things are important. We just don't install a plan. We've got to educate our clients on an ongoing basis. So long-term disability with a flat benefit, we've got a number of cases where actually the client has said, through discussion and with the advisor, the client says, hey, we just want to provide a basic amount of living expense. We want to provide $2,500. We don't want to have NEMs, and we don't want to have these risks associated with this long-term disability benefit. We just want to provide a flat benefit of $2,500 a month. That way people can potentially live. But what it did is, in this case, it gave the opportunity for the advisor to sell additional top-up DI products, individual DI products, and meaningful DI products to the high wage earners in this particular group. So long-term disability with an NEM and a higher maximum, again, it's back to that. You got to provide evidence of insurability. Failure to communicate this, leaves the employer and potentially the advisor liable. Somebody's making $5,000 a month. They think they're getting their $5,000 a month or 2/3 of their $5,000 a month, but you know what? They may not be. So there's risk every time that the salary increases as well. And there's commissions included in this, etc. Does it, all of these things. So one of the things that we like to do whenever possible is set the LTD maximum and the NEM as the same. So we don't have to worry about these evidence of insurability forms. And I'll tell you again, evidence of insurability, well, it's only $20, $25. Well, $25 times 12 months is what? $300 a year. Okay, times 40 years, it works out to a lot of money, right? So the problem becomes bigger. So that's why when you're looking at risk mitigation, sometimes having the long-term disability benefit match, the maximum benefit match the NEM, can be a good thing depending on the client. So case study, just very simple. Long-term disability, $5,000. The non-evidence maximum is $5,000 a month. The maximum is $5,000 a month to age 65. 2/3 of earnings. Great. A 25-year-old making $60,000 a year becomes disabled. It's his first or her first job out of university. They're getting paid $60,000 a year. Boom. But the plan administrator forgot to enroll the employee in the plan. It was maybe one of those things that, hey, this person, it was a simple mistake, but this person worked there for the summers before that and all of a sudden became a full-time employee. Could be a very simple mistake, but simple mistakes can be costly, right? Well, 60 times 12, 60 divided by 12 is $5,000 a month. They've got 2/3 of a benefit. Really rough math, of course. This is $3,350 a month, benefit payable to age 50 or 65, pardon me. That's $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year times $40,000, $40,000 a year times 40 years. It's like over $1.6 million. So this little mistake could potentially cost the employer $1.6 million. Oops. Again, we're talking about a small case. This could be a 10-person case. The employer is going to overlook this if this happened at the Royal Bank. Or excuse me, the insurance company is going to overlook this if it happened at the Royal Bank because there's enough risk there. A 10-person case that they've had for a year or two, the insurance company is not going to overlook it. They're going to say, sorry, what do you want us to do? The house is on fire. We can't provide you with insurance. It's a $1.6 million liability. It's important that we know this. It's important that clients know this. Risk mitigation, right? Long-term disability can be complex. It's our job to explain the different risks and help your client choose what makes the most sense for them. And the best plan design is one that an educated client chooses. An educated client chooses. Excuse me. Critical illness risk to the plan sponsor. Well, similar to life and AD&D. The employer is liable for the amount if they forgot to enroll the employee. You got to enroll the employee. You got to tell the insurance company when somebody joins. Misunderstanding of coverage or giving misunderstanding of information to employees. Critical illness insurance. I've got a critical illness. Well, guess what? That's not defined in the contract. Critical illness. Well, shit, I got a critical illness. Yeah, but you know what? The cancer is not deep enough. It's skin cancer and it's not deep enough. Or I had a heart attack. All I hear from the doctor is heart attack. But it wasn't more than 5.6 on the Richter scale. So it wasn't really a heart attack. It was just a pretend heart attack. Well, it was a heart attack to me, God damn it, and I don't get my insurance. What's going on here, right? So it's a misunderstanding of coverage, right? And not giving employees forms on a timely basis when they're diagnosed with a listed condition. These are problems or potential problems for the plan sponsor. The risk to the employee, not notifying the employer when they're diagnosed with an illness. They might go, oh my gosh, you know what? I just got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, or it's taken me 6 months to get a diagnosis. Something's going on, but I don't know what it is. It's taken me 6 months to get the diagnosis, but I got it. The whole process started 6 months prior to that. And I just want to deal with things first. And, all of a sudden I don't submit a claim for a year and a half. And yeah, sorry, you didn't submit the claim on time. Right. So it's important that employees understand what this risk is. They think that they've got this coverage so they can use it whenever they want. No, they've got to, there are certain contractual things. They've got to, submit it at a certain point in time. They've got to be aware of this. So if they want to keep it hidden from their employer, they're going to have to deal with that. But it's important to note that when employees need to understand what their risks are as well. Risk to the advisor. Again, misrepresentation of coverage and overselling CI as a comprehensive health or income replacement solution. Not explaining pre-existing condition clauses. Big one. There's always pre-existing condition clauses of some sort in a group CI contract. Failure to adequately explain the covered conditions to the employer. Everybody's guilty of this, right? Everybody's guilty of this. Yeah, heart attacks covered. No, it's not. Certain heart attacks are covered. Again, more than 6.9 on the Richter scale or whatever it is. Cancer's got to be so deep. Certain types of cancers are covered. Certain types are not covered, right? Limited, but all the member hears is cancer, right? Limited understanding, of the differences between carriers. Conditions may vary by carrier and insurer type. So when we're saying, hey, yeah, we want a $25,000 CI benefit, well, they're not all the same. It's important that we as advisors let clients know what the differences are. Standard and enhanced. Standard is four illnesses, and enhanced is significantly more than that. Right? CI with a flat benefit. This is what we see most often. It's a $25,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 flat benefit, but the employer must enroll every employee so they become eligible. And it's important to note, and I've seen this time and time again, where employers go, yeah, just give me a CI benefit because it's cheaper than an LTD benefit. Well, a CI is not an LTD benefit. Now, a client may choose one over the other. That's fine. But let's not use that word intertwinedly. A CI benefit is not a long-term disability benefit. Yeah, somebody may have never seen a check for $25,000 or $50,000, but that's it. Once it's gone, right? Whereas long-term disability, as we all know, pays until age 65 potentially. Claims can be denied if there's a pre-existing condition clause, right? Everybody has to be aware of those pre-existing condition clause. There may be different CI plan designs with different covered conditions, limitations, and definitions. Again, second occurrence benefits. What if my cancer comes, I'm free of cancer, and then, I've been paid out for cancer, and I'm now free of cancer, and then 5 years later it comes back. Am I still covered for cancer, or am I not covered, or what's the limitation? And again, every contract is different. We have to help our clients decide what makes the most sense for them. Right? It's about risk mitigation, is about education. Right? Extended healthcare and dental care. We could spend days on this, right? But as we all know, unlimited benefits without maximums can lead to uncontrolled increase in costs, right? We all know that. I love companies that put in these plans that are rich as hell, in their virgin cases, and they go, yeah, we'll just put it in everything. We had a good year. We want to put it in everything. We want to put a great benefit plan in. Well, all of a sudden, they're opening up Pandora's box. There's two types of benefit plans. There's a defined benefit plan, like what we're used to, like traditional defined benefit. We know that drugs are covered and dental benefits are covered up to certain expenses or certain limits and so on. We just don't know what the claims are, so we don't know how much it's going to cost. Simple as that. We don't know how much it's going to cost. Versus a defined contribution plan on the complete other end of the spectrum, where it's a healthcare spending account and you know what it's going to cost, you just don't know what people are going to claim. You got $1,000 in a healthcare spending account and somebody claims $2,000, it's like a 50% reimbursement plan. Or if you got $1,000 in a healthcare spending account and someone pays their claims just exactly $1,000, it's 100%. So again, there's different parts of the spectrum. High-cost drugs, specialty drugs can drive up costs, especially if we're talking about a 10 or a 15 or a 30 life case, right? All of a sudden, somebody gets a $100 or $300 or $500,000 drug. Boom, it drives up the costs, and then the next thing you know, the plan becomes not sustainable for the rest of the company, right? Outdated wording on plans can lead to employee dissatisfaction. One of the biggest areas, and we spent a lot of time working, especially during COVID, with changing contracts, talking with our clients about their mental health wording and their paramedical benefits, right? It was just a licensed psychologist or something. I think it was something along those lines, but it was really, really restrictive. And we changed the wording in a lot of contracts to have any professional mental health practitioner. So it's because if we got outdated wording on a contract, these are risks to the plan sponsor. Outdated wording on the contract, all of a sudden you get this dissatisfaction. Employers are saying they care about mental health, but all of a sudden, well, I can't get this benefit paid under my plan, so they really don't care that much. Right? There's another big thing that's happening right now, and I was just reading about it very briefly in Benefits Canada before this session started, but Ozempic and those types of drugs, they're being prescribed for weight loss, and they're not designed for weight loss. They're designed for diabetes primarily. Right. So it's, what's the word I'm looking for? I always forget. Off-label prescription or whatever it's called, right? Where you give somebody a prescription for something that it's not designed for. Well, now all of a sudden, as a result of that, this could cost, I think the quote was, $70 million in the insurance industry in Ontario, right? But it's amazing when you think about it, because what's happening is now insurance companies are automatically going to put people that have been taking these drugs, these Ozempics and other drugs like it, in this category for potentially off-label stuff. They are going to be putting them through the special authorization program. So what was once covered, it may no longer be covered. Is this something that the client wants to have happen? Right? Luckily, we were able to turn on that switch or turn off that switch. And we're communicating with all of the advisors that we deal with about this, and they've got to go to their clients. This is a great opportunity. People look at this as a pain in the neck. But when we're talking about health and dental and maybe outdated wording, and risk mitigation, this is a great opportunity to speak to your clients, on an ongoing and regular basis about meaningful things. Ozempic is something that's, you can't watch a really bad hockey game like we did last night. Thank you very much, Leafs. And not see Ozempic ads on the boards, right? So this is something that's real and quite timely. Talk to your clients about risk mitigation and Ozempic. Do you want it to run through special authorization or not, right? Plan maximums leaves employees paying out of pocket once they reach the plan maximum. That's a risk to an employee, right? Especially if they don't have a partner or spouse that has a benefit plan. Co-pays could lead employees to choosing not to use the benefit plan, even if they need to, because they can't afford it, right? Co-pays, again, when you're looking at a class of employees that is very low wage earners, they even though it's hey, we're going to pick up 80% of those dental expenses, I can't afford the 20%. So it's looked at, from a risk perspective as that's their risk, right? The employee may think they don't have a great benefit plan, right? Because of this. So there's a risk associated with everything that you do. That's why there's no right answer. The risk to the advisor. This is a big one. Not having the client understand the renewal process. I know it's difficult. Employers, plan sponsors spend a half an hour a year on this. Do you know what they think advisors are? Bad news that comes up with a briefcase. How much is it going to cost me this year? Oh, gosh. Here comes Wendy. Uh-oh. Fasten your seatbelt, Wendy. I'm joking because, you were the last one to ask a question, so I'm picking on you, Wendy, but I'm not. Oh, my gosh. Advisor, bad news in a suit. Here we go, right? It's not explaining how premiums can increase every year. Not explaining what may happen after a rate guarantee, right? Not explaining high-cost specialty medication without appropriate plan designs can really make a plan unstable quickly, especially if you're dealing with a smaller employer, right? Not explaining not understanding the client's needs and recommending a plan that doesn't work for the client. Like, these things are critical. What if the client pays too much? Well, you know what? And the advisor walks in, hey, good news, good renewal this year. The insurance company isn't going to increase your costs. You know what? When people say that, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I have a good renewal or a bad renewal. There's no such thing as a good renewal or a bad renewal. There's only a good renewal or a bad renewal if your client isn't educated. Our job is to read the news, right? When a client understands how their costs are calculated in their benefit plan, truly understands how their costs are calculated, There's no such thing as a bad renewal. But when someone walks in and says, good news, the clients aren't, or the insurance companies are not raising your prices this year, it means they pay too much. All of us in this room are entrepreneurs. All of us in this room understand value and value proposition. All of us in this room don't mind spending money on value. We don't mind spending money on value. You know, I got asked if I wanted to buy my buddy's tickets for last night's hockey game. He's got a pair of Reds. They were $1,266, I think. I chose not to, even though I'm a Leaf fan, but I chose not to spend the $1,266 because I just didn't see the value in that. And then watching the game last night, am I ever glad I didn't spend $1,266? But I just didn't see the value in. I didn't get that much. I wouldn't get that much entertainment out of a game. I'm not that big of a fan. Now I would spend $1,266 on other forms of entertainment without blinking an eye, but hockey, not so much. But we all like to spend money on value, right? And when a client pays too much, it reflects poorly on you unless they truly understand it. Because a client is going to understand when they pay too much very quickly. And what happens when they pay too little? Well, they're going to get unexpected increases, or the increases are going to come at a time that doesn't make sense in their business model. So this is why education is critical. Bad renewals, good renewals. Renewals are renewals. When I hear bad renewals or good renewals, it's just nails on a chalkboard for me. We tell clients on a monthly basis how they stand from a financial perspective. They know exactly where they stand. In other words, we do a renewal almost every single month. They know exactly where they stand. And when we walk into a client's place of business and actually, Rob was telling me about a meeting that he had the other day. There was a 40 some odd percent increase in the 40% increase in the client's budget for their benefit plan. The client or the advisor asked Rob to go out to the meeting with her, pardon me. They went out to the meeting because she was nervous about delivering this 40% increase. The client had these 12 reports every single month, saw that they were in a deficit position, knew that the reason why they were in a deficit position was because of the claims that the president of the company, the owner of the company, was putting through. And all of a sudden, when the meeting happened, it lasted about 5 minutes and the rest of it was just chit chat. But the financial aspect of it lasted about 5 minutes. And the client said, great, plan's working. Awesome. Love it. So think the Leafs are going to win? You know, like it's easy, right? So we need to make sure that our clients understand how benefits are costed. That's the biggest risk mitigation strategy that you can bring to the table. But examples of other risk mitigation strategies through extended healthcare and dental care, managed formularies. You know, Formulary Protect and Formulary Protect Plus. We just had a meeting very recently, last week, actually, late last week, with our friends from Claim Secure. Actually, it was Monday from our friends from Claim Secure. They were reviewing our block of business. We advise our clients and our advisor partners and our clients to use some of these managed formularies. You know what? It works. Guess what? Our average claim was $933, where an average claim for the Claim Secure's block of business was $1,300 because of these managed formularies. They work. What they do, if you want to find out more information about the managed formularies, reach out to any one of us and we'll be happy to tell you. We've also done sessions on this, and we've had Dave Wochuk from Claim Secure do sessions on this. It's excellent stuff. But managed formularies can work, and they help out a client in a great deal. Overall maximums and employee versus family maximums. We're working on a case right now. It's a beautiful case. Beautiful. I sound like Donald Trump there. Beautiful. It's a beautiful case. The best case we've ever had. Right? It's fantastic. Just fantastic. Anyways, I don't do a good Donald Trump, but you get my point. But they want to have, and this is what was really exciting for the client when we were talking about this. They want to have a different maximum for massage therapy, chiropractic, and physiotherapy for the employee, and then a different maximum for the family combined. They want to do this because their job is very physical and they want their employees to have this. They don't necessarily want to pay for their families to have it, but they want their employees to have it. We could easily accommodate that. They were excited about it. Silo maximums. Again, putting silo maximums in place for things like mental health. Great. All paramedicals are going to have this maximum, mental health is going to have this maximum, which is bigger. We talked very briefly about it, defined benefit, but defined contribution, defined benefit, being on one side, defined contribution being on the other side. Hybrid plans is something in the middle. We've got a lot of clients that say, hey, great, we understand what the risks associated with these benefits are, and what we want to do is have a drug plan with the appropriate stop loss and pre-X in place. And then we want to have a healthcare spending account for the rest of the ancillary health benefits and for all the dental benefits. Great. Stop loss and pre-X. Pre-X on a stop loss benefit is there to protect the employer and the benefit plan, so it continues into perpetuity for all the employees. You've got a 12 life case, a 15 life case, whatever it is. The pre-X on a stop loss is there to protect the employer and the plan for all of the other employees. Stop loss is there because if somebody comes into a company and starts off at the bottom rung of the ladder, so to speak, you know what happens? They bring in a $50 or $150 or $250,000 drug claim with them. Great, and the pre-X is not there on the stop loss or a large amount pooling, or it's just a traditional benefit plan with Manulife or Sun Life or Equitable Life. Guess what? The claim gets paid, the costs go through the roof, and the client has to cancel the plan for all the employees that have been there for years. Right? Real big risk. So when you sell stop loss and you sell a pre-X on the stop loss, it's there to protect the client and it's there to protect the employer. Learn more about this. Again, reach out to us. We're happy to explain it. But what really is the overall philosophy of the plan? From a health and dental perspective, is it there to help the employees? Is it there to pay for everything? Is it there to protect them? Is it there for $1 million drugs? A lot of employers, when you ask them those risk mitigation questions, they've got significant difference of opinions. So it's important for us as advisors to make sure that we understand those. Remember, a benefit plan is a promise. That's all it is. It's a promise. And what does the employer want to promise the employees? And that's where the philosophical discussions come in and the risk mitigation conversations come in. The promise can be different between different groups within the group. You can promise the executives one thing. You can promise the managers another thing. You can promise people with more than 20 years of service something else. You can promise new employees that have only been there less than a year or less than 2 years or less than 3 years. You can promise them something different. But what does the client want to promise? Because that's what's most important. And it's our job, I think, as advisors, is to understand what they want to promise, make sure they're aware of the risk associated with that promise in all different categories, so they can make informed decisions whether or not they want to revise, adjust, increase, decrease that promise to fit with their needs. There is no magic bullet that says, this is, you want to avoid risk mitigation? Guess what? Don't have a benefit plan. You want to avoid it? Don't have one, right? But your risk, if you do that, your risk good employees not coming to your company because your compensation isn't competitive. So there's risk associated with everything. Our job is to make sure that we have the risk tolerance discussion with our employees. Risk tolerance discussion. Risk tolerance. Use those words. They resonate with people. I reviewed my insurance for my home and my other property and my cars, and we've got toys like ATVs and so on. And I've chosen to have everything renew all at the exact same time. And I sit down with my P&C provider and advisor, and I go through the different policies, and I want to understand what my risk is. We have those risk tolerance discussions. It's important that clients have these with respect to their benefit plan as well, because our job is to educate and motivate. And we do that by asking future-based questions. An educated client is a great client. An uneducated client is a problem because it's going to lead to problems in the future, and it's going to lead to unhappy clients that are going to fire you. So educated and motivated clients, by asking future-based questions, turn out to be great clients. And I've got some legacy business. I've had this client, we started in 1993. I think I've had this client since 1994. I'm going to see him next week in Markham. We spent a minute talking about his benefit plan. It's just an excuse to get together, and we talk about our families and travel and things that we're doing and building, and our future. And I just love having this conversation with this gentleman, and he does with me as well. And it's great, but he's educated and he's motivated and he understands his risk, right? It's important. So we've spent 55 minutes together chatting, where I've been doing most of the chatting and the chitting, and you guys have been asking some questions on the chat box here. But I think it's important to ask your client and prospect the right questions. By the way, everything that I'm saying client, I'm saying prospect. What a great prospecting tool. Hello, Mr. Prospect. It's Wendy Martin calling, and I just want to review my risk mitigation checklist with you. Do you have a few minutes that we can meet next week? What do you mean you've never had a risk mitigation checklist? Are you serious? Well, we should definitely meet then. How's Tuesday at 10? Like, it's phenomenal. By the way, go in with a risk mitigation checklist, show it to them, don't leave it with them. Show it to them. This is what we do when we review a plan. We review things like this, this, and this, and have a big long checklist, show it to them. If you'd like to engage me, here's an AOR, let's go, right? Have a real risk tolerance discussion with your clients before it's too late. Have it with prospects, show them how great you are, right? There's no right or wrong answer. That's the beautiful part about this. It's just making them aware so they can make decisions. An informed decision is better than an uninformed decision. Let's have them make informed decisions. And the most important thing is if you don't do this, somebody else will. Somebody else will, for sure. We're doing a chat TBT on June 4th, the Smart Business Owners Benefit Plan. Rob, Jordan, Carrie, Mike, and Lindsay Gibson are going to be on that call, as well as that our next month session, our June Zoomcasts are going to be on connect, educate, and motivate your clients and prospects. So check those out as well. Check out our website and sign up for those. And we're going to have a time for discussions and so on. So let me just stop sharing so I can see you. We got a few minutes left. So again, thank you all very much for joining us. And who's got some, on my offside, who's got some thoughts, some ideas? What am I missing here? What have I overstated? Anything? Anybody? Hands up. Anybody? Okay, listen. When you fill out the form that says the survey that says how we did today, and you say, hey, great, everything was great, but I wish the session was more interactive. Okay, I'm giving you this opportunity. Don't say I wish the session was more interactive because you didn't say anything. Okay. Anyways, any thoughts, ideas? Am I on side here? I think I'm getting some thumbs up. Wendy, you're muted.
Just wondering, when you're trying to decide whether or not to move a plan, but because I deal with a lot of smaller groups, that there's a potential risk involved, because nothing's been diagnosed yet. It's still iffy. There's no drugs that are high cost, but there's the potential for something to come down the line. The employer, it's one of their key people. How do you address that, Rob? I'm really
Well, how do you address that is this way? Hey, you know what? First of all, you don't know, and the client doesn't necessarily know what's going on with that particular individual. There might be, rumors and things happening, but that's when you can change a plan. Well, first of all, you can choose to do nothing. The client says, hey, I'm not doing anything until we understand how big this fire is going to be.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not doing a thing. Great. There was another way to look at it is great. Let's put in, for example, a formulary protect, because that's going to mitigate the risk to your plan. And therefore we can get that potential claim should it come onto a provincial program, whether it be the Trillium program, the special access program, et cetera. Right. So it depends. It's really a client decision, right? Obviously, I think it's your job, just like it is everybody's job that's on this call, to point out, what the differences are, to weigh the balance. But another example is I went into I want to get this right. I went into a company, this was years ago, and the guy wanted us to look at their benefit plan. And their benefit plan, they were part of an association plan, and I'm pretty sure it was it was an engineer of some type, an engineer association plan. And one of the features that they had in their benefit plan, which I had not seen before, was they had out-of-country emergency travel coverage. They had no pre-X on the out-of-country emergency travel coverage, and it was 60-day coverage. And there was the termination age was retirement. Okay. And the guy that I was meeting with, the owner of this particular engineering company, and it was a nice company, there was 50 or 60 employees in it, but they had a lot of other engineers. It wasn't just him doing the work. But he goes, I'm never retiring. Right. He goes, I love working, but he goes, I love travel, and I take, I do a couple month-long trips, like 3 or 4 month-long trips a year. Right. But I love traveling, but I don't want to sit at home, and I don't want to play golf and shuffleboard and so on. So I said, do me a favor then. Put this policy in a drawer, forget about it, pay the increases every year, because you cannot replace that out-of-country coverage. Period. It's not worth it. Risk mitigation. Pay the premiums. It doesn't matter. The Manulife or whoever it is going to treat you fine. Right? But you cannot duplicate this coverage. So he appreciated that, and we went our separate ways. But if I knew that if I was walking down the aisleway at a grocery store and I saw him, we would shake hands and say hello, I wouldn't, have to hide. But it was, it's that important. So it's about mitigating risk and knowing when you got something good. So it's really up to the client to decide that. If this was not important to him, he wouldn't care. Right? But it was important to him. Thanks for your time, everybody. It's 101. I appreciate it. Let us know how we did today. Let us know how we, can do it better tomorrow. Let us know if you like this time. Mike's going to send you a CE credit, aren't you, Mike? Mike's going to send you a CE credit. He's going to send you the slide deck. Going to send you sign up for our newsletter as well. And we appreciate everybody joining us today. So on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust, thank you very much. Reach out to us anytime. We'd be happy to help you out. We're available to go out on meetings with you or join you for meetings virtually. And we'd be happy to help you out. We provide custom employee benefit solutions. We deal with a lot of you, and thank you for your continued business. And those that we don't deal with you, we're going to reach out and say hello and find out why, because we want to. We've got some 2025 inventory still on the shelves. We got to get rid of it. We got to get rid of it in the second half of the year. Thanks, everybody. Have a great long weekend. Bye for now.